Well, thanks very much for that. This is the question. Will China hit back at Trump's tariffs by pulling, as what one guest in the morning told us, the nuclear option? That is, selling US treasuries, US bonds, basically. According to many, it's the most powerful weapon in China's arsenal. I mean, it's not new. Every time there are these tensions, back in 2018 also, I remember, this was put out there. Will China dump its holdings of US bonds? So let's just quickly take a look at this, right? Will China retaliate by selling US bonds or not? Not just with words or counter tariffs, but real pain in the bond market. Now, a move like this could serve as a powerful financial market deterrent, much like weakening of the yuan's daily fixing. I mean, the last fix, not today's, but yesterday's fix showed that China is willing to tolerate lower yuan to increase the competitiveness for its goods. It will also a move.
Yeah, I genuinely love the accent. Have you guys never heard an Indian guy before? There's like 1.5 billion people who would speak with this accent if they spoke English, which some of them do. I have to dial it down a little bit because sometimes I'm reminded that I am a American who spent my whole life living in like big cities, basically. So when I hear a guy with like an Indian accent or a like a Albanian accent or like a Greek accent or a Nigerian accent or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah. But then there are people in chat who are watching this from towns with like 7,000 people in the Midwest, and like maybe they legitimately, I don't know. So you get these weird like cultural, you get like a mirror held up sometimes, and I find it charming, by the way. I'm not demeaning or whatever, I think it's a little charming. I don't know, I heard this in high school. I still don't know how real it is or if this is one of those myths or whatever, but when European settlers came with their slaves over to the Americas, and you had those accounts of Native Americans who had never seen a black person before, who would like, there was like the one account I heard in high school where one guy like licked his thumb and tried to rub what he thought was soot off the black guy's skin. And it's like, I'm sure people are going to take that the wrong way. But when I heard that as a kid, I was like, oh, as interracial first contacts go, that's kind of charming, right? When compared to like everything else going on. Like if you're taking a dynamic between a European settler, a African slave, and a Native American, and the interaction you get out of that is, oh, the Native American guy thought there was like soot on the black guy's skin. That's like the best case scenario, basically. I don't know. I guess it's just a reminder that like unfamiliarity and hatred aren't necessarily the same thing. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Oda Nobunaga ordered that Yasuke be scrubbed when he first met him to see if the black will come off. See, yeah, when I read stuff like that, because I think so often, right, like when we see racism in real life, which we do pretty often, online is real life too, I guess. Like not in fiction or whatever. It's like based out of false familiarity, where you have people online who are very racist against, say, black people, based on a very comprehensive set of racial stereotypes that imply familiarity but do not actually mean familiarity, right? Like you've got guys who know 5 million racist stereotypes have never talked to a black guy. Like you don't actually know black people. You just know what white people say about black people. I feel like whatever you say about, like whatever you can say about racists of the past or whatever, like I feel like there used to be more of a relationship between being around people that you are racist against and being racist against them, in the sense that you wouldn't care as much if you weren't around them. Nowadays, you've got Korean incels posting about black dudes on Twitter. You have never met a black man. You live in Korea, South Korea, whatever. You've never met a black guy. Like, what are you doing? You will never meet a black guy. Unless you live in Seoul or whatever, like you will probably literally never meet a black guy. What are you doing? I don't think there are Nigerians online being like, you know who I hate? Korean guys. And if there are, that's weird. And I disavow. How did I get on this? Sorry.
Move like this, when you dump bonds, yields shoot up. It will raise the cost of funding for US government. And of course, send that message that don't take our restraint for granted. such a move, and how big is China's holdings of US government bonds? Let's just take a quick look. The last number I have is this. China holds, and if you can move the graphic along, is about China's holding of US bonds is about $760 billion. That is, just pure China. There are some reports which suggest that, you have to take some proxy holdings, etc., and then it becomes over 1 trillion, but direct holding about $760 billion. This graphic is also interesting. China's ownership of US government bonds as a percentage of total foreign ownership of US treasuries is about 8.9% now. What was the peak? It was 28% in 2011. Remember,
That's not too surprising, I don't think, that China would have diversified a bit since then. This is one of the reasons why I've been saying, like, China is better prepared for the trade war than we are. We are utterly dependent on them. China has been trying to build out trade relationships beyond us,
Foreign investors own about 30% of the entire US debt. So, these are very large numbers, and that's the reason why this comes up off and on. Now, the point also is this. If China decides to sell, US of course hurts. But China also hurts simply because it is one of the largest holders. A fire sale could devalue its own reserves. I mean, this is basically quite similar to how a large shareholder in a...
Not to engage in a form of, like, I don't know, callous Orientalism, but I feel like China could survive the devaluing of its currency by quite a bit. Like, I could be wrong on that, but I feel like the way their economy is structured, they could handle that relatively well. Certainly compared to us. What do you mean by that? Well, basically our entire economy is hinged on us not building anything, but us being able to buy everything in the world, because our currency is so powerful. The US dollar is so insanely powerful. Like, it's the most more powerful than any comparable, like, nothing has ever been like this. We are the, like, kings of this kind of economy. They make the stuff, we buy it with our super powerful currency. So much of our domestic and foreign economic policy is oriented around maintaining a high value for our dollar, This is one of the... Have you ever wondered how a country like, say, Turkey can have like 80% inflation and still basically exist year after year? Have you ever wondered that? Like, how does it, like, a country like Turkey, Argentina, not Greece because the EU, but, like, there are countries that consistently have really high inflation, and then they're, like, fine. Like, they're not doing good with that really high inflation, but they're, like, holding it together, basically. We're the ones who are uniquely vulnerable to inflation because we're the ones who are completely committed to the persistent strength of our dollar. That's not really the case with China. What makes our currency value high? Global reserve currency, the fact that we engage in trade in the way we do. Every country is really, 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 really invested in maintaining the value of the US dollar because they hold so much of our currency in their treasury. They hold so much of our debt. So if our dollar devalues, that devalues their holdings. Everyone wants to keep the USD as a global, like, reference point for currency. We're, like, kind of essential for a lot of international trade, So as a consequence of all of that, like, the dollar has to stay really, really, really consistent. It's not really a matter of overestimating China. It's just their economy isn't really as reliant on maintaining a powerful currency. No, whatever. Yap, yap, yap. You know how I am.